we're gonna get some of these.
Check. Good evening, Lamar. How are you? Hi, Lamar and Jesse. How are you guys?
We are good, Bo. How are you?
I'm doing well. It seems like our tech is working here and on Zoom, so we got that going for us.
Good job, Bo.
Yes.
Thanks.
What commissioners do we have there?
I have Commissioner Fry and Commissioner Esch here.
Okay, good. That makes a quorum, but hopefully the other two will come along. Hi, Lisa.
So did you read all the, what they? need?
Yeah, I read it. I'm not sure.
Lisa, can you hear us?
She went to the restroom.
Okay, thanks, John.
Lisa looks like she's on the picture, but name.
I see Lamar and Jesse.
Hi, Ann. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Hi, Ann, I'm here.
Hello.
Hi there. I can hear both of you. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
We
Good,
can,
Loud
coming
and-
in loud and clear.
excellent. Hi, Lisa,
Hello.
Oh, there she is.
for being here tonight. We'll wait a couple of minutes, see if Rocco comes in. Do we have any citizens there that want to make comment, Bo?
Jorge, would you like to make public comment?
Can't hear you, Bo.
He can't hear, she can't hear Bo.
I'm just checking with the audience.
Is Mayor Todd there? Is Becky there? Who else there?
It's Mr. McIntyre.
not sure if she's ready for.
Bill McIntyre's there. Excellent.
I'll use this mic.
Okay,
I will have comments from Phil McIntyre.
well, I'm hoping to add him to the agenda.
Oh, okay, perfect. Hey, Lamar, are you seeing my screen share?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, it's 6:30. Rocco looks like is joining us via Zoom. Welcome, Rocco. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I need to tech check Rocco when he gets connected. Good evening, Rocco.
Hi, Lamar. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I've just called the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us via Zoom. We've done a tech check and roll call already. Do we have additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? I have some. So does anybody else have any? Okay, here are my things that I'd like to have added. We had an application that came in today for the shade sail project at Park Fitness Court. I want to add that to the agenda. It can go under business.
Don't I have that, don't I? Or is it different?
So we're adding it right now to the agenda. It came in today.
Oh, I do have it.
Oh, you
It was online. I printed it off.
Oh,
I think that's a different one.
Oh, is it?
this is for the canvas cover.
Yeah, this is for the shade sale.
The other
Oh.
one's for the fence.
Yeah, I didn't put it anywhere. So if it is online, I screwed up.
I did see it, but thank you.
Excuse me.
Second, I would like to add a discussion with Bill McIntyre of 10285 Mountain Lane. And I would also like Bill to discuss the guardrail on Hotel Street. I don't think we moved forward with that. And then I need a brief discussion subcommittee that we created in our last meeting. So those 4 things need to be added to the agenda. And those things I just mentioned to be under old business, although I'm not sure Mountain Lane had previously been brought up, so we can 5C if you want. That's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I.
Anyone opposed? All right, let's move forward.
Okay, so
Agenda.
See, last time.
Mike, do you have something?
No, I'm sorry. I'll
He
shut my
was
mic off.
catching me up. I had to go get another pen and mine quit. Sorry about
No problem. Our consent agenda, we need to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was on the 9th of this month. Do I have any motion to approve those meeting minutes?
I move to approve the minutes as written.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Lisa?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Let's move on to our public input. Do we have, I'm not counting Phil here because he's on our agenda now. Unless he wants to speak just as a member of the public. Is there anyone else who wants to speak as a member of the public? We have Mark Gates on the Zoom. Mark, are you wanting to make a comment?
I'm just here tonight, invited by Jesse, and just to answer any questions on the shade sale project.
Perfect. Thank you for being here. Do we have any citizens there, Bo, who want to make a comment?
I don't have any locals here for public comment.
Okay. Let's move on to number 5, our business, the land use code and muni code inconsistencies discussion. Bo, are you going to lead that discussion?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We received an application, which I have right here. And actually, if Jesse's on Zoom and he wants to kind of do a summary on what the application is for, that could be a good start. Jesse, would you be thinking that's a good idea?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I did put forth an application to replace and repair existing fencing on what is referred to as the Pittman property. That's the 30 acres of land to the east of Joyland and Town Hall that adjoins Highway 24. The fencing that was there was barbed wire fence that was in poor condition. So we put forth a plan to replace that with a 5-foot equine panel fence that would have cedar postings and pressure treated lumber. There's no potential for any traffic obstructions. There are no roads or public trails within the area that we've fenced. Here's a picture of what that fence would look like up on the screen. Thank you, Bo. And all gates, roads, etc., that are existing for the fire department and access onto the property would remain. So in summary here, removing barbed wire T-posts from the property. And note that Joyland is PUD, plan use development, and the only neighbors on the other side of the fence line would be ourselves, meaning Joyland or Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation. Highway 24 is on the north side, and Colorado Springs Utilities, which is not in town proper, is on the east side of that fence.
Is this for the horse rescue that I've heard about?
Yes, sir, it would be.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the application is pretty clear and pretty straightforward. I think what staff discovered was that our land use codes and our municipal codes are inconsistent. And the sections are pointed out here. Bo, do you want to go over that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. There's a couple of things going on. One deals with the number of horses that can be on a particular parcel. The other is a setback for fences used to contain horses. There's a 10-foot setback from property lines that's in here. And then here it talks about the number of animals per 1,500 square foot of lot. And so these things just aren't in keeping with the new land use code, where we would need to add. I have other questions too, like this is from our land use code and it cites commercial uses. And I'm not sure that this really fits in either, you know, the commercial understanding of what that is or residential. So
How many acres is this plot of land?
30.
30 acres, okay. And how many horses did you plan on having?
I'll say that at this time, we are planning on having 6 to 8. Our plan is to work with Elite Equine, who has a rescue facility near Black Forest. They're pulling athletic horses with injuries off the track that would otherwise be disposed of and rehabbing them. Part of that rehab is just 6 months of them being pastured to let their livers detox from the drugs that they've had and to sort of remember how to be a horse. So we would likely have a few of those at the property along with some boarders who help them learn to be part of a herd again. And that's our plans for year one. We really haven't looked past that, but a concern to all of us is not allowing overgrazing and keeping the property looking good. So I can't imagine us going over the 12 horses that we would be allowed per this code.
Okay, thank you. Will there be a stable or some kind of building on there for the winter?
There will be, yes.
Okay.
You'll obviously see plans for those forthcoming.
Okay, thanks.
So where does it say the max is 12 horses?
I found where we're allowing 1 horse per 1,500 square foot of lot size. And then elsewhere in the code, there's a maximum of 2 horses right here. Elsewhere in our code, let me see if I can find that. Right here. Let me find it.
Are you talking about the 1.5 acres?
Yeah,
If you-
it's per 2.5 acres.
Yeah,
and
if you
that's
go
times
up,
two
if
horses,
you go up 2 pages
and then,
down.
but then elsewhere in the land use code, there's no restriction if it's for like horse rescue. So, being a 30-acre parcel, an acre is 43,560 square feet. So I think that would be like, allowing 870 horses or something on one part of it. And then on the other part of our code, it limits it to 2. So I think defining that is a good. thing to
This
do.
is Ann. I remember in 96 when that ordinance was passed. And, a long time ago, we had 2 stables in town with lots of horses. And then people did keep horses in their backyard. And that was complained about. So that was why they did that. And Jennifer Forbes was allowed to keep her, I think she had 2 horses and was able to keep them. She was grandfathered in because I remember 20 some years ago when my granddaughter, who's 23, Jennifer led her around on a pony to teach her, how to ride. But after that, once her horses were gone, they were not permitted because no one had enough land. And in fact, they just weren't permitted. Horses were not permitted.
So what would
I
we
think
need
it's
to
good.
change?
Yeah.
What would we need to change in our municipal code, or is this something we're able to change, or is this just a recommendation that we make to BOT?
The municipal code would have to be changed via ordinance. The land use code, I'm not even sure about that, but I did find this section that's under animal shelter in the land use code. And that's where it has a carve out for horse rescue facilities and the number of animals.
We were anticipating this, I believe.
Yeah, I think 6 to 8 animals on 30 acres is very reasonable. Like,
Well, he said there might be as many as 12.
well, even 12 on 30 acres.
So
Of course.
this is Becky, and I did want to just provide a little bit of additional clarification. The area that this is being proposed in is zoned open space. Is that correct?
That's what I thought.
So I think that what we need to do when we're looking at this code revision is to ensure that the intent of, that ordinance that was created in 96 still protects residential properties, but allows the flexibility within this open space to be able to be a little bit less restrictive when it comes to a horse rescue.
If I might mention too, I had put the agenda for tonight on the politics page. And I got a question on there. A girl who I don't know, but I think she lives in town, said, "Oh, does this mean we can have chickens and goats in town?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." And so I've just talked with the mayor about it briefly while he was down in the swimming pool fixing it. And he said that if that comes up at a later time, people can come if they want to raise chickens in their backyard or whatever, that could be addressed at that time. But right now it says you can have 2 pot-bellied pigs, 2, it's funny the way it's worded. No exotic reptiles. I can't remember what else.
That's section 6-78 in the municipal code, and it's 2 dogs, 4 cats, 6 rabbits, 3 potbelly pigs, 3 ferrets, 4 non-exotic reptiles, and 2 horses.
And
That's
those,
on city property?
and the horses were gone once because she didn't have enough land. Because it had that
So-
extra.
So Becky, the municipal code, as we look at that, it's not designating residential, it's not designating open space, it's not designating commercial. It's just limit on number of animals. So how do we apply this when it comes to open space land use code? Is it necessary to change it, or is it really conflicting because it doesn't, it's not pertaining to any specific property.
So in the municipal code, it does specifically address these as being in residential areas. I think that what we do need to do, and anytime that there's any inconsistencies in between the code, the most restrictive of the codes is what legally applies.
Mhm.
So I think what we really need to do is just make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees, if that's what you think needs to happen, to make a code modification and ordinance to allow for this use in a open space zoned area. And then that's something that the actual language and wording of that will be something that Austin Flanagan from the law office will help us draft.
None of this property borders a residential property, does it? I mean, it's off here to the
It's on the-
north
on-
of the fire station or,
On the
north
other
and east,
side of Red
yeah.
Devil, yeah.
yeah. I think this is fine.
And it's mostly about the fence this evening.
Absolutely.
That all
So
includes the rest of it as you're gonna have to discover and.
the fence application itself, without these inconsistencies, would have been something that would have been really easy under the new land use code to just approve administratively.
But you can't.
But because of this code conflict, we were having to, we'll have to make modifications to that, through the ordinance. This is just forward thinking.
So you. kind of-
Thank you, Becky, for bringing this forward and being forward thinking. I appreciate it.
I have
so
a
we-
raised hand from Lisa Bonwell. Sorry to interrupt, Lamar.
Oh, no problem. Lisa?
Lisa.
Yeah, so Becky, can you, or Bo, could you give us a section in a more concise way of everything that doesn't correlate with each other?
Those are all typed up in the memo to you all that is as
Okay.
part of your packet.
Mhm.
Okay, well, was it just, okay. So I can read that later. All right.
Well, we need to get it clear now, Lisa, so it's a very valid question. From what I'm seeing, okay, let's take it section by section. So,
Laura, can I finish one other thing? And I
Sure.
agree with you. Why are we talking, they're two different things. It's an orange and an apple. Why are we going to make them the same?
we need to deal with the fence, and we will. And we need to deal with the inconsistencies, and we can choose to do that right this minute so that we can make a recommendation to DOT so that we can get this process moving to get the inconsistencies fixed. So those are the two different issues that we're dealing with tonight.
Well, The two things I'm wondering about is residential versus open space. Why are we applying the same? It was your comment earlier.
This is open space, and my understanding from Becky is that the municipal code sections that we are reading tonight that are inconsistent only refer to residential space. Is that correct, Becky?
No.
I don't think it's specified as purely residential, and because it's not specified, it could be interpreted in that way.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That's why we need to fix it. Okay. So if we go section by section, the first section talks about the property size requirements. Within the town, there has to be 2.5 acres or larger in size. And I think there is the setback of the 10 feet we need to deal with.
Why would we have a setback for a fence? Usually fences are on property lines.
The idea is that if it's containing a horse, the horse wouldn't be able to graze over the fence into the adjoining property.
Well, I
So
think
it would keep the horse back from the actual property line
Okay,
where.
But
it's
10 feet.
Residential property.
10 feet would not be necessary to keep a horse from grazing next door.
Yeah, it's a big
And
horse.
the type of fence that I believe Jesse has described would not allow them to graze outside the fence. Is that accurate, Jesse?
They could still graze, tree limbs or things like that.
But
But,
there's,
but they can't reach over it and eat grass
Correct.
unless it's one heck of a big horse.
But this property does not border a residentially zoned property.
Yeah, so I don't know why we worry about.
So that, I think that is an important distinction.
so section 6-121, the property size. That would probably be our first recommendation to BOT that Austin changes the setback requirement of 10 feet.
One idea is that since these items are addressed in land use code, that they could just be eliminated from our municipal code.
I think that's a good idea.
That would save on legal fees.
I think that's a good idea.
Do I have,
The trustees can decide.
do we want to go through each section or do we want to motion each section or just eliminate all three?
Can we just go through them quickly, all three?
Okay, so section 6-122 is enclosures. Well, it's really not an issue with this particular property. They will be 75 feet from any neighboring house, dwelling, or place of business, right? It's not a problem, right? However, the enclosure, corral, or pen has to provide a minimum area of 1,500 square feet per animal. We don't know that they are going to build that large a corral, pen, or enclosure, nor should they be required to build one that's that large, providing 1,500 square feet per animal. That doesn't seem to be something we should require.
I don't read that as I read that as the enclosure, not the building, the 1,500 square feet. Says horses shall be kept in a suitable fenced enclosure, corral, or pen, which is what we're talking about as an enclosure. And they
Yeah.
will be restrained, providing a minimum of 1,500 square feet an animal. Well, he's got that with 30 acres.
Agree, but he may want to put a corral or a pen on the property in addition. And I would hate to see this requirement still be in the code.
Yeah, I
Comments,
agree.
Jesse?
There are plans, of course, within the barn. Each one of those stalls is a 10 by 10, which is standard. So that is 100 square feet. The corrals are generally about twice that size. If we're talking about the total of the fenced enclosure, 1,500 square feet per animal is fine. But if we're talking about a corral or pen, those are often much smaller for dry lots, for health issues, etc. So that could be problematic if it were to be enforced that way.
I would just say there's no reason for us to tell anybody how big their corral or pens can be. I think we should get rid of that one too. Anybody disagree on that?
No.
Okay, let's look at the third section, 6-78, limit on number of animals. This one's crazy to me to talk about pot-bellied pigs and ferrets and reptiles. I mean, this is
So if we just repeal all this, the trustees could just get rid of this whole thing? Is that
An
what you're saying?
idea that would address 678 potentially would be to add a clause that would allow the Board of Trustees to exceed that number of animals with, board approval. So we could leave it in place and just add a line at the back there.
If we just got rid of it, I don't see what it's adding. Again, we got people asking about chickens are listed. I mean, I just think we just need to get rid of the whole thing. Who are we to say you can only have 2 dogs?
Well, I think we should somewhat limit that, though, Lamar.
So Lamar, this is Rocco. I think we're kind of going above and beyond our charter, which is land use. I don't think we even need to address 678 animals as far as land use goes. But Bo does have the recommendation to allow more horses by adding the ability for the petitioner to request more than the set amount, but that exceeds really our land use and it's more the municipal code.
Right, we are making a recommendation to BOT on our municipal code that is consistent with our land use code. So that's why we're discussing it.
Well, could, Lamar, could we just approve what Jesse wants and send it on or not? We don't do that. We have to make recommendations.
Let's finish this discussion
Okay, I'm not sure.
and then we'll get to what Jesse's asking.
Okay.
All right, so far, the recommendations have been made that we suggest to BOT, they get rid of the first section, the second section, and the third section. If we got rid of number 7 on there, then it sort of wouldn't be an issue. And I personally would like to get rid of the third section, period, because it's ridiculous. But any other thoughts? Any other discussion?
I have a raised.
This is Rocco. I'm not in agreement. I don't think, we have a special instance where we have this proposal with 30 acres of open space. I'm not in favor of scrapping 6-121. I don't want horses in a very small area anywhere in town. So I see the need for having something like that. In the case of this 30-acre parcel, it is an exception, but I think this 121 was written because they didn't want horses kept on very small parcels that have a lot of neighbors.
So the change in, if we kept it, we would need to change the minimum of 10 feet setback, I guess.
Another alternative that would allow us to keep 6-121 would be to just create an exception for the open space zoning. And that would address Commissioner Blasi's, suggestion that that might be pertinent elsewhere in town. And it would still address this application and ones like it in the future.
That's a good idea, Bo, because when we put together the land use code with the open space designation, it was with that in mind, that people could have more flexibility for something that was open space. So that's a good suggestion for just making the exception for the open space designation.
Thank you. I also have a raised hand from Commissioner Bonwell.
Yeah, if I could,
Lisa?
could I speak? So the first section, and then the third one, right? We're talking about town residents. We're not talking about open space. So I still don't understand why, Bo, that we're addressing this.
Becky said that she felt that it could be construed as not only relating to residents, but also open space. That's the understanding that I got from what Becky said. And that she,
Yeah, also the municipal code predates our open space category of zoning. And so that's an entirely new category that's in our land use code that isn't, the municipal code is silent there because we didn't have that to address at the time we adopted the municipal code.
So is the open space within the town? It's not.
yes, it is.
Okay, all right, got it.
Can't you just add a sentence that says these do not apply to open space? All right.
We were talking about making the exception on
So
on the
moved.
first section for that, yes.
That's a good idea.
That's the discussion. On section 2, my problem with it is I don't think you should tell people how big their corral or pen can be, so. Maybe we just take corral or pen out and leave it if y'all like the rest of it. Issues with that? Is that solved? That's the only problem we really had with it.
Do we need more information? I mean, should we?
What information do you need, Ann?
I don't know what we're supposed to vote on.
Well, we're still discussing it. When we get to a motion, then you will know what it is.
Oh, okay.
All right, third section. The easy thing to do, if y'all want to keep this, which I think it's crazy, but if y'all want to keep it, we could at least suggest we just take the horses out. Or, you know, it's obviously talking about a residence. It's obviously not talking about open space. So you could say, again, this doesn't apply to open space designated properties. That sort of solves it.
All right.
Comments?
Good idea, Mike.
I think that's what we ought to do. If you want a motion, I'll make it.
Oh, please, Mike.
I move that we simply add a sentence to say that these sections do not apply to open space.
Okay, that solves section 1 and 3. It does not solve, I guess it does solve the corral or pen size if it doesn't apply to open space. Okay.
I guess I'm confused by the wording in that section 678. It talks about a pet. And you got dogs, cats, rabbits, but I mean, horses as pets, I think there's livestock, which is different. And so I really don't want to hear a rooster crowing next to my property, to be quite honest, at 4 a.m. So I think this was put in for a reason once upon a time. So I think we need to be cautious about just saying it doesn't apply to any open space. Because if, you know, someone purchases open space and then wants a chicken farm, we've just removed that prohibition.
Rocco, how about in section 6-78, we just take out the horse, suggest that we take out the horse limitation period. And leave the rest of it.
Yeah, I think that would be okay because up above it says horses must be kept on 2.5 acres or larger in size. So that doesn't apply to any of our residential areas.
Right. All right. So section, you want to give a shot at a motion again? And this is what our recommendation to BOT would be.
Okay, that we add a sentence that says this does not apply to open space, and we eliminate number 7, horses, 2.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Before we vote, Lamar, we have discussion. So this applies for all 3 of the municipal code sections. Is the recommendation? Is this true?
That's what I intended.
Yes.
Okay.
That gets rid of your setback for fence and it gets rid of your sizing requirement for corrals or pens. In number 2 and the setback for fencing on number 1. I think that's us what we want.
So is Mike's motion applying to all three or just the first two sections?
All three.
And that,
I think that Rocco's comment, Mike, was that he didn't want to have it apply to number 3. He wants it to apply to 1 and 2, but he doesn't want a chicken farm bordering residential. Not that-
How much do open space borders residential? Is that a problem? I haven't looked at the map.
How many open spaces are there left?
Well, we do have others.
All right, I can modify my motion to say that,
Jesse
Me.
wanted to make a comment. Jesse?
all right,
I appreciate that as I'm not a commissioner, but section 3 actually makes sense to me as it's written. To protect the town as a whole. And I think that asking for a variance for more than 2 horses on a case-by-case basis allows the Board of Trustees to just do what makes sense. As a resident, I'm respectful of item number 3 because I think it's not only good for the animals, but it's good for the neighbors.
So would you leave the horses in, that you could have 2 horses in town?
I would, only because I see above that in residential code that you have to have 1.5 acres, and I know that that situation doesn't exist anywhere residentially.
so basically you can't have a horse in a residential area anyway, because there are no 2.5 acre plots in the residential area.
That's right. Yeah. They only grandfathered in the ones that were already here. Mac Patron's horse, his daughter horse, used to graze in the property across from the old town hall that burned down. And that was where the Brockhurst stable was located when I was a child. So, and it's not very big. Once that horse was gone, no horses in town. And Jennifer had the same thing. So,
I don't know why we're allowing 3 potbelly pigs, et cetera, the whole thing. So, anyway, if y'all want to leave it as is and get a variance, if it's again, to me, when it says in that very section, residence, to me, this only applies to a residential area. But
First line,
where-
for any residents in the town to have more than the following number. So a residence in the town is a
is
residential
in
area.
house. Yeah, you're right.
But I'll leave that to BOT if they think they need to give a variance on that.
If they're licensed.
Correct.
so Lamar, at this point, we have a motion on the table. I just paused the voting for discussion. And so I would like to propose an amendment to the motion that sections 6-121 and 6-122 are the 2 sections that we want does not apply to open space. That's the amended motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it. Let's get going.
Mike seconds it. If there's no more discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right?
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. So what we need is recommendation to BOT to make our land use and muni code consistent. Is to make those first two sections applicable, that they do not apply to open space designated areas. And that's our recommendation to get things consistent. Okay,
And the two horses. don't
read that
apply.
memo or do I?
If you
I
could
guess the
prove-
BOT will just have to approve an exception to the two horse rule. You can't.
If
Why?
they think they need to, it looks like it's only applies
What?
to. It looks to me like it only applies to residential areas, since in the second line, it talks about the residents. But if they think it could apply to anything else, then they can get a variance, if that's what's.
Well, the first line says it's unlawful for any resident in the town. That pretty much defines the problem to the residential area, right?
I
No.
think so. But in the second line, it talks about the
Mayor,
residents.
explain your,
Okay, with that first line saying where it's unlawful for any resident, that would apply for any resident in any zoned area.
But what
That's the
about the
problem.
second line where it talks about the residents?
Unless the residence is licensed as a kennel. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
But right now, the only way we can deal with this is to, well, first off, we got the legal ruling that the municipal code, whatever's more restrictive, that's what you have to do. That's what we have to follow. And then in addition, municipal code, we can't do a variance or a waiver. And so we got to change the code in order to allow more than two horses for any, the way I'm reading this, for any area. Because unless it breaks it down by zoning area, then it's applicable to all.
Okay, so we can't get variance. You can't have more than two horses. I don't care what the area is that's what I heard the mayor say. So we need to make a recommendation to BOT to, I believe, remove number 7. Or does anybody have a better idea?
This is where we could add a clause to allow the Board of Trustees to exceed that number with board approval.
For that section. Is there-
I'm not sure this clears up the inconsistencies when we've got in number 1 that if it's open space, you can have however many horses you want as long as they're or in number 2, as long as there's 1,500 square feet per animal. I don't think we're clearing up an inconsistency if we keep in 2 horses. How about on number 7? We just go back to, as long as you have 1,500 square feet per animal, you can have as many horses as you want. Just refer back to that.
I think the recommendation to add that clause for the Board of Trustees to have flexibility would come with the motion that you just passed regarding 6-121 and 6-122, that those don't apply to the open space zoning. So those would kind of be independent of this clause just being added to 6, 7, 8.
and what's wrong with adding that clause to the 6, 7, 8? That it doesn't apply to open space. It just applies to residential properties. And instead of saying any resident in the town, you could say any residential property in the town. And that way, open space is open.
Because Mike, as I said previous, we don't want a chicken farm in town. So I think it's good to have certain restrictions. And so there's 2 options for the horses. We either recommend that subparagraph 7 goes away, where we eliminate the restriction on the horses, or Bo has proposed language to give an option for the trustees to consider approving exceptions to this.
I like that one.
I like the latter. I'll make a motion that the
have a
trustees
second?
have the authority to make an exception to this paragraph 6.78.
Do I have a second?
Has it been, did you second it, Lamar?
Do I have a second?
I second it. And
Okay, Ann, let's have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, so Bo, do I create this memo to go on to BOT's agenda at their next meeting, or send it to me?
That would be fantastic. I think having it come from you is most appropriate.
All right, I will. I will get that to you tomorrow, and I will send it out to all the commissioners as well.
pretty soon.
All right, the second thing that we need to deal with, that Jesse was asking for, was to approve his fencing. Is there any better way to say that, Jesse?
I do not believe that there is. I understand that the changes to the municipal code could take 2 months to be approved. And if that's the case, then I would like to amend my fence application to honor the 10-foot setback.
So you're saying that you want to put a 10-foot setback in?
That is not what I want, but I need to move forward before the 2 months that the municipal code would take to be changed.
Well, with the mayor and Becky sitting there, that does not make sense to me for you to spend a bunch of money on fencing that you don't want it where you don't want it there. Can we recommend to BOT that an exception be made to the 10-foot setback? That's a variance, right?
Unfortunately, we're not able to do a variance against the municipal code. That applies only to the land use code. So if Mr. Stroop would like to amend his application, that is something that can be approved easily administratively. If not, we believe that we could probably have this accomplished by the end of June to have it go before the Board of Trustees.
When do they meet?
Does end of June work for you, Justin?
No, because I have my contractor in place, but I want to thank the planning commission for forward thinking and for looking and helping problem solve the equine facility as a whole. I appreciate it. But I also want historic to be seen as following the letter of the law. And so I'll consider both options that Becky just gave me and do whatever's best for the project.
All right, that makes sense. All right, let's move forward to our next application for the shade sale project at Pool Park Fitness Court. Bo, do you have that information put up on the screen?
Lamar, sorry, I have one go back in the land use code before we move on. There will be one required update to the land use code, and that'll be to add a C or animal shelter to the open space section of the table for the land use code. So that'll be one other change that we will need to add to this memo. Probably need to have planning commission action on that as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it wasn't already there. All right, I need a motion to add an animal shelter section to the open space section of land use code. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second, but I'd like to discuss.
okay, let's discuss.
So looking at the definition for animal shelter in our land use code, it says it's used to shelter at least 15 animals in a year. And so if we're being legalistic, does that meet the definition of animal shelter? The rest of it seems to to meet the definition for the proposal, talking about welfare, protection, humane treatment of animals operated either by government, humane society, animal welfare society, animal rescue group, or other nonprofit group. But it does stipulate for some reason at least 15 animals in a year. And so, but I do believe that what I think the proposal will be in the future for that 30-acre parcel, the best definition in our code would be animal shelter. But I'm bringing this up to get a read from the town staff.
There is one more line in that definition at the bottom. It says this use includes rescue horse facilities regardless of the number of horses sheltered in a year. And that reads a little bit nebulously to me. But I think there is a carve out in that designation for horse rescue.
I remember that. Mhm.
That doesn't sound real nebulous to me, Bo. How would you tighten that up?
Do you read that as a straight carve out where, that doesn't apply if it's for horse rescue? The part of it that seems nebulous is that it says this includes, but when I read the paragraph above it, it doesn't seem in keeping.
Well, all of it's in keeping except for the at least 15 animals, correct?
So I just bring it up, Lamar, because I do think animal shelter is the best definition for how this property could be proposed, used in the future. I think it's the best definition, but as far as legal speaking goes, I don't know. If we could just go with the best definition, the closest definition, even if they may not have 15 animals a year. And that's why I bring that up.
Jesse, my understanding of the shelter, y'all would have had easily a minimum of a rotation of that many, of at least 15 in a year, correct? Or am I wrong?
I don't think that I could guarantee that number, based on, right now we're looking at partnering with Elite Equine. And some of those therapy horses are in therapy for years to overcome their injuries. So we may not be able to meet that 15 animal designation. I hope that that's a great relationship and that we work with Elite Equine, for a long time, but it could change in a year where we're working with a different partner who has a different game plan.
So yeah, I read that last line. I'm sorry. I read that last line as saying that a horse rescue facility can still be designated under animal shelter, even if it fails to meet that threshold of at least 10 animals in a year.
That's what I heard too, Bo. Bo, can you bring that paragraph or whatever it is up on the screen for all of us to see, please?
Sure, give me one sec.
This is Ann. When I was thinking of animal shelter, I was thinking of the barn, where they're gonna be kept.
Well, I think this is a more generic term, such as, you have dog shelters that take in cat shelters, that are rescue groups that take in animals. It's not referring to a building, I don't think.
I will need to build a building.
Okay, so we're waiting on Bo to bring that up so we can all look at it and see what it helps if you can read it.
You're trying to read.
Are you able to see my new screen share on Zoom?
I see an updated PC meeting agenda packet. I think we need the page right before that.
There it is.
All right, yeah, I pulled it up on my paper version. I mean, this last sentence says this use includes rescue horse facilities regardless of the number of horses sheltered in a year. I don't know how it can be clearer. And I see 10 animals instead of 15 in this definition of animal shelter.
So Lamar, the latest copy that I have printed up was, I guess it was a pre-final draft. So that wording must have gotten changed to the definition. So it looks like there's not a problem with the current approved definition.
Yeah, yeah, because I've got the approved version and it matches this one. Becky, are you feeling good about this?
Yeah, that this piece of it's, I think, okay.
I think we're good. I don't think we need to recommend a change there. Pretty clear. All right, are we ready to move on to the shade sale project?
Hope so.
No, I think we need to vote on the animal shelter. We had a motion, right? But we never voted on it.
Whose
For open
motion
space.
was it? Whose motion was it?
I seconded.
Okay. Do we want to withdraw the motion or just all vote against it?
Withdraw.
Okay,
Well-
So this would be a motion to include the conditional use of animal shelter as an open space option.
oh, okay, yeah, we still need that, I guess. All right, so let's vote on it. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that needs to be included in the land use code under open space. How does that change get made, Becky?
So
Add the end.
to change both the land use code and incorporate all these additional changes, we will be taking these recommendations to the Board of Trustees. Austin will be preparing a ordinance that will have to go before the board at a first and second reading. Second reading generally entails a public hearing, so we'll have to publish this in the paper. And then after the second reading and the public hearing, it will become effective after 30 days after being done.
So this will all be done by the end of June, as you told Jesse? Is that correct? All that can be done by the end of June?
I think they're saying July.
July.
Yeah, this will end up being going into effect at the end of July. I suspect we'll probably have a second meeting in June of the Board of Trustees to get this pushed through.
All right. Okay, are we ready to move on to the shade sale project? Jesse, would you like to introduce that?
Yes. First, I'll apologize to the town staff for not considering the amount of time it would take for them to prepare these documents between the last PRT meeting and tonight. The Kirkpatrick Family Fund has made an offer to partner with the town of Green Mountain Falls to incorporate a shade sail system as an upgrade to the existing fitness court.
Jesse,
Um,
let me interrupt for just 1 second. Bo, can you bring those documents up?
I'm working on that now. 1 sec.
Okay, go ahead, Jesse.
The shade sails are seasonal and would be installed in the summer months to make the fitness court more user-friendly in the intense daylight sun. Sails would be a desert color or desert sand color per the attached fabric guide. The posts are permanent and would be powder coated white to match the fitness court. The systems to be built and installed by Creative Canvas out of Denver, who installs these systems statewide. The system would be the property of the town and paid for by a grant to the town from the Kirkpatrick Family Fund. The Kirkpatrick Family Fund would cover maintenance and expenses related to the sail system for approximately 18 years under the current MOU between the town and the Family Fund. This would be done by adding the sail system as an additional piece of equipment to the existing MOU, which is in the packet. So Bo, if you want to scroll through, I can just talk about each item quickly. So up now is the application that I prepared. Following that is the memo that I just read to you, which was there. Then there's a recommendation from the Parks, Recs, and Trails Committee that shade sails, they recommended that the shade sails be added per the terms that I just described. There is a basic site plan to show everyone where the fitness court is for those of you who have never seen it. And then there is the proposal from Creative Canvas. So that tells you the exact details, 8 posts and 4 sails to be designed, made of fabrics which are fire rated and stainless steel hardware and posts. The cost is $47,225. And following that proposal from them is a rough drawing of what that shade sail system would look like from above. Then there are some renderings and a fabric guide. I also included from Creative Canvas installation notes and engineering from a previous project which is using the same materials that would be installed in Green Mountain Falls, which is here. And then I included a copy of the memo of understanding between Kirkpatrick Family Fund and the town of Green Mountain Falls as it relates to the fitness court, recommending that we simply add this system as a piece of equipment within that MOU. And I've invited Mark Gates from Creative Canvas to answer any questions about the shade sail system itself.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Can I ask a question? I think
Sure.
That's a nice idea. I expect it's pretty hot in the summer. And those sails, they're pretty stable, aren't they? They're not going to fly away or anything.
Right. We have a lot of experience over the years in practical use and engineering. They're going to withstand any wind that comes through there. So we always build them to, rate at 100-mile-an-hour, 3-second bursts situations, which are very rare. that kind of coordinates with a lot of the cities and counties through the Front Range and down into Colorado Springs and so forth. So, yeah, each one of those connection points on those posts, have 7,000 pounds of capability on them. So we're proposing 6-inch round posts that are 3/16 wall. Those are going to go into 24-inch diameter, 5-foot deep footers apiece. So they're not going anywhere.
I think it's a good idea. I would move approval of the proposal from Jesse Stroop.
Have a second?
Well, I guess what are we approve, or is it at our level to approve? Question for the town staff. Planning Commission can approve this. Does it have to go to regional? Is this all just handled through us?
This would need to have planning commission approval and recommendation for approval to the Board of Trustees, so that we can approve that updated MOU, and the contractor would need to get with Pikes Peak Regional to ensure that there are no other building permit requirements.
So if we approve it, it goes on to the trustees. I wondered if do we have to have any more insurance because of that or anything like that?
As a gift to the town, this will be something that we add to our asset list
just
that will
add it
be
in?
insured.
Okay.
I second the motion to recommend the BOT approve the proposal.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
All right, Jesse, is that is that all you need from me?
Sir, thanks for being here tonight, Mark.
Okay, you bet. Good seeing you guys.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jesse.
You bet.
Going into old business, I would like to jump, since Phil McIntyre has been there waiting to talk about this, I would like to jump to 10-85 Mountain Lane and what the issue is there. Before we do that, though, I just want to let Planning Commission know that we created a subcommittee at our last meeting of 4 people. 3 of the 4 have resigned, and Phil McIntyre is the one remaining.
The only one.
He's willing to attend our meetings and report to us regarding engineering issues. And he is here tonight on a couple of issues that have come up. And I'd like to start with the Mountain Lane property. Phil, if you want to talk to us about that.
Okay, first I have a question for Rocco. I was thinking about getting a couple roosters. We're not too far apart. I just wonder if that'd be okay.
Yeah, I like to have chicken for dinner.
Actually, on Mountain Lane question, I think the issue is the retaining wall in back of the property that may be blowing out. And I haven't looked at that. I've just looked at, the issue is not on Mountain Lane. It's really the issue behind the house, whatever road that is. Is that Spruce or what is that? Something like that.
Where is Mount?
The issue's behind, so I need to look at that, but if that is bowing out, that's gonna be, it looks like the plat, I don't know if you have the plat, but it looks like it's right on the property line and the road. So I don't know whose responsibility that is. I would
that
think of
property
property owner, but I'd have to look at it, and I haven't talked to the owner yet. I probably need an introduction before I go knocking on the door or something like that. But depending on how much bowing is required or exists, then we're gonna have to figure out an option to either repair it or, because if it does bow out further, it's gonna compromise the road.
What's the address of that area?
Pardon me?
What?
It's 10285 Mountain Lane. Bo, I don't suppose you have handy any of the information that you provided regarding this property.
It's not in the agenda.
I don't have that handy. I just went out there with my phone and I have a kind of mapping tool for other purposes. And it's pretty close. It's gotten me pretty close to accurate on property lines where I know where the boundary really is, but I wouldn't depend on it for anything actionable.
Yeah, I don't know what the plat actually says or, what the easement is for that road as far as, yeah, I would think. But that's a pretty high retaining wall for, I think they've used railroad ties, what they call soldier beams. They
Mhm.
stick in the ground and go up and hold the ties back, but if those are compromised, then there's some work to be done to correct that. But
Becky,
that's really all I have on that. I have to go look at it in a little more detail and talk to the owner and see what his viewpoint is, because I haven't talked to him yet.
okay, Becky, you were the one you brought this to the Planning Commission and our subcommittee. Did you have more questions on that? Do you want Phil to get back with you on it? What would be the next action for this?
What I'm gonna suggest is that we just go ahead and make that soft introduction with the property owner. We'll reach back out to them. The last time I talked to him, he seemed like he would be willing to speak to one of our volunteers or community volunteers that might be able to take a look at it. Really the questions that we have is, we do believe that this retaining wall is privately owned. But the issue of it being is that it's really protecting a town asset of the road. And so, what needs to be done? Whose responsibility is it to maintain that? And then how can we help?
Yeah.
Wow.
What is the property owners? He wants the city, I guess, to pay for it. Is that
Yeah.
No,
okay.
Mountain.
And it does look as though, we peered over the fence. It's got a big fence on top of it.
Mhm.
And we did peek our heads over the fence into the backyard, and it does look to me, with the amount of material that it's there. And, me not being an engineer, but just looking at the way that it's bowing, or bellying. It's that if that were to collapse, I do feel like, and I could see where his urgency would be as the homeowner, because I would anticipate that it would reach into his yard far enough to likely damage his home.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty close to his house
Is it,
from what I
old?
saw.
Is it an old thing?
I was talking to Public Works, and they had recollection of it getting put up, not in the terrible past, but it's I think been there for some time, and with the way that it's aged, it looks like it's been there for a decade at least.
Well, ties have a tendency to rot, even though they're treated, and they rot over time, especially when they're in contact with the earth. But that can be an easy fix, or it can be a major fix. Kind of depends on how far you want to go.
Yeah, and I think this, this conversation, what I would hope to get out of it, but with the homeowner is, having him have some options and know what could be done, so that when he approaches that, it can be in the most cost-effective ways possible.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
Would is the city willing to go 50-50 with him, or or 0, or,
It is not something that we budgeted for, so it'd be something
Okay.
that we'd have to take to the board.
okay, okay. Lamar, did you have another question? for me?
Yes, I wondered if you were prepared tonight to speak about possible solutions for the guardrail problem on Hotel Street, or what would be next steps to find solutions?
Yeah, I've looked at that. When we had the big rain, last week? Water does run right down that creek and it fills that, stilling pond. Even though that driveway extends out, it goes right around that driveway and goes right down the drain. Couple solutions. Each one's gonna cost some money. You could remove the guardrail and then modify the trench to put steel grating over that guardrail or over that trench and tilt it. So, the question was, when you get trucks sometimes slide into the wall, so if you tilt it up, then it keeps the truck away from the wall and that way it doesn't get stuck. The other solution is to get rid of that trench entirely and the guardrail and put a trench across Hotel Street with grading over it. So any water that comes down that road will hit that trench and go right into, that eliminates the guardrail and the trench on that side. Each one is a little expensive. So, I can make an estimate of that if you want me to. But it has to be okayed by city codes or whoever's the authority in question to make sure that what we present is in code and acceptable.
Becky, what would you like next on this? Would you like him to make some comments on these two different suggestions?
I think it would be great to have both options and kind of a little bit of a write-up of what each of them are and some cost estimates, some alternatives.
Okay. I can probably draw up a sketch. Sketch is worth 1,000 words. And then maybe in a quick estimate, my proposal is you really don't need that big of a trench. We had a pretty good rain and water was maybe 1.5 feet, 18 inch or 2 feet going down that trench. So it doesn't catch a lot of water, but it moves it fast. But I can see what I can come up with and I can bring it to the next planning meeting or whatever, and share that information.
Thank you.
Phil, we really appreciate you being willing to do that. And I think if you even wanted to go ahead when it's ready, share it with Becky and with me, that would be fine. Our next meeting is June 13th, unless something else comes up. And if you have it ready before that, feel free to share before then.
Okay, actually, I'll be on vacation on the 13th, but what I can do is bring that information to Becky and then she can share it at the next meeting.
Okay, all right. That sounds great. All right, Phil, thank you so much. We appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
being
Thank you.
willing to volunteer your time like this. Thank you.
All righty, thank you.
Very helpful. Does before he leaves completely, do the commissioner have any questions for Phil on either of those topics? Yeah. I don't know who's talking. I can't hear them.
I don't have any questions here in the room.
Okay, great. Thank you. Becky, do you have a contract planner update for us?
I certainly do. So we are in the process of hiring Julia Simmons to be your contract planner. We are working out the details. We'll be discussing with her a start date. That has not been something that we've determined yet. But then once that happens, I'm going to skip down to D because that will be one of the first things that she and Bo are tasked with is that fee schedule update. So they'll be working on that for a presentation to the board.
Excellent. I'd love for planning commission to see the fee schedule update and have the opportunity to recommend it simply because we wrote a lot of the code around this. It's changing. I think some of the things that we thought the fees were going to be regarding code. So I feel like we should have some input on it before it goes to BOT.
We can certainly get you a draft.
Thank you. And you have comments on our updated Muni code?
So the land use code update in Muni code, it's probably best that we get these a couple of additional changes included prior to that update. So that's been put on hold, but the zoning map update did have a great meeting with the consultant firm that Austin had recommended to do a zoning map, waiting on a quote to come back from that one. So all things are in motion.
Thank you, Becky. I appreciate you doing all of that. Do we have any correspondence to present this evening, Bo?
I didn't have anything come in.
Okay. Is there any other business that any commissioners feel we have missed or should discuss this evening?
I have a question.
Ma'am?
Do we have a meeting on the 31st about the with Paul?
No, that is not a meeting for this group. It is for the three chairs of the three committees, Green Mountain Falls, and that is that meeting on the 31st.
It's you and Lisa and the other committee chairs. Is that the way it works?
It's me and the other committee chairs.
Oh, I see. You're putting together the whole groups that time. Okay, I had it on my calendar for some reason.
It's the three committee chairs.
Will
Any
it
and
be a public meeting? Can we zoom
you're
in?
welcome to attend. You're welcome to attend.
It will be a public, okay, I'd like to listen to it.
I did post it as a public meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll
I
be on
get it.
Zoom.
But we don't really meet till July or June 13th.
That is correct.
Okay.
Anything else? Questions? Anything that needs to be covered? I'm probably going to send this memo out to all of you tonight. If anyone has changes or corrections, please let me know. Otherwise, it goes forward. I want to thank all of you for being willing to have a second meeting this month and for all of your attendance. Your diligence to serve the people of this town is so appreciated, and I so appreciate everyone's participation and your cooperation when citizens need us to address things timely.
Oh,
With-
Laura, could I ask you
Yes.
one more thing? I'm sorry. Did I hear, I have trouble hearing sometime, but did I hear that everyone all the engineers resigned from that committee that we thought was starting?
Yes, they felt they could not properly serve if they were required to have public meetings. It's a little hard for a couple of engineers to meet out on the side of the road and look at something and have that be a noticed meeting. So
Oh, I think that's smart. Yeah, they don't want to
they
get
felt
tied down.
they couldn't serve. They're still happy to volunteer as needed. I know Cactus said he can put things on a CAD drawing anytime we need. There's a great willingness to serve, but they did not want to be hampered in their ability to serve.
But they can talk about it as friends.
Um,
And
They-
that's wonderful.
They
Okay,
live in
thank
our
you.
community and they have the expertise, and if they can be of use, they would love to be of use, but it's not gonna work as a sub.
Yeah.
So Phil is our single member of our subcommittee.
Oh,
That's-
there is a subcommittee then of one person.
Phil McIntyre is the single member.
You just can't meet with him, so.
It's got to be transparent. Okay, sorry.
All right, anything else? If not, we stand adjourned at 7:55 PM Mountain Time. Thank you all again. I appreciate everybody's participation.
Thanks.
I don't know if you're, I don't know about auto reply on it, but I'm watching for application. So that